Hello and welcome to Blood Bowl Legendary Edition. Here with me today I have a co-commentator from his legendary hive of scum and villainy and Let's Play videos, Zaza ODH.
Hello. So it looks like we've already actually chosen our team as vampires, and now we're just choosing a name, which I suggested. I like to point out we suck.
Yeah, that's why it's so bad.
I don't know if any of you caught the motto, but it's apparently we like them juice and bloody, which doesn't make sense. But here we are choosing players. So Blood Bowl, you need 11 players on the pitch, so you have to buy basically a minimum of 11 players now, really.
Blood Bowl is kind of like American football, but a lot more violent, let's say.
Yeah, it's all about the beating each other up.
Yeah, even, death is perfectly fine. As long as you kill them in a certain way. I mean, you can be sent off.
Yeah, but not for killing people. We're going with a pretty standard vampire team of 3 vampires, 8 thralls, and 5 rerolls. Rerolls allow you to basically reroll any dice once per turn, but you only have so many, and you can only use 1 per turn, and you can never reroll a reroll. So here we are choosing 4 because Sam clicked wrong, but now we've got 5. Which is
Yeah,
great.
that was my fault. I do apologise. Here is our team, and of course we have 3 vampires and a load of thralls, 8 I think it was.
Yep.
And our team roster. You can actually choose the name for your characters, but we haven't done this time because we're playing offline just to show you how it's done. But in future videos we will play online through matchmaking, so you can follow the progress of a team. We'll make it a bit more personal then.
Yeah, some of these people got pretty funny names. We've got a couple of brothers there actually. The Rucko brothers, which is kind of amusing. Just obviously randomly generated names though.
We can see here our first game will be against the Dark Elves, our first and only game with this team, that is. So yeah, you'll get to see them in action as well.
Yep. Pretty standard elf team really. Bit more bashy than other elves, but not particularly. Here we've got inductments. Because their team's better than ours, you get given kind of gold to make it so you're not a massive underdog or whatever, and you can spend those on things. So we're buying Bloodwiser Babes to start with. This means if that one of your players gets knocked out at the end of every drive, as it were, so when the pitch resets and you go back to the touchline, you get to roll for each of your players that's been knocked out to see if they come back, and Bloodwiser Babes make them more likely to come back.
We also yeah.
Go for it.
We also bought a wizard there, which he can do one of 2 things. He can cast a fireball, which is like area damage, and a lightning bolt, which is single target, but it's much more likely to land and wound the enemy, which, is you kind of want to use them to snipe ball carriers or do the area thing to take out a big group of enemies. But again, that's usually going to be if they try and cage up around whoever's holding the ball.
Yep, definitely. We also picked up a Wandering Apothecary, which is just means that if you get an injury roll, you can re-roll it to hopefully get something not so terrible.
Blood Bowl does already actually have commentators, but if I dare say so, they do have a very bad tendency to repeat themselves after you've played the first 2 games. Hopefully we won't do that.
Yeah, hopefully we don't do the same, but yeah, they do get... It's amusing to hear what they say, and then once you've heard it a million times, it's a bit boring. So we get to choose the task, so heads of towers kind of standard, and we win because towers always wins. And we're going to choose to kick. A lot of people by default were just like, yes, I must receive the ball because that's allows me to score quickly. But actually, against the teams that aren't going to beat you up, against the teams that actually want to score, you're sometimes better off actually giving them the ball if you're the bashy team, which we are in this situation.
There are a couple of different kind of teams in this game, you see, where some of them are just designed to run around people and score to win, whereas some others will just literally walk all over your players and just steamroll their way to the touchdown line to win. And yeah, the second type especially is quite deadly to your team because they have a bad tendency of putting some pretty bad permanent wounds on them, or even killing them in some cases.
Yeah, here we're just, Sam's just setting up the team for how we're going to actually kick off. I mean, this is something that you could really spend all day kind of trying to perfect or whatever. I think at this point we're kind of messing around trying to do different things, but we're probably obviously you kind of get into a standard setup for the team. So when you're kicking, you'll probably play a certain way, and when you're receiving, you'll set them up a certain way as well.
You might notice we've deployed a vampire on both flanks and one in the middle as well to kick off.
Luckily, we get Blitz here. Blitz means that when you kick the ball, there's a dice roll and random stuff happens every single time. This time it was Blitz, which basically gives us a free turn before the ball lands. So whilst the ball's kind of still in the air, you can see a little yellow kind of square at the top there, which is where the ball's going to land. So our goal is basically to try and either get under that square so one of our guys has a chance of catching it, or try and, you know, just do as much damage or move into good positions before the ball lands.
They do have a huge disadvantage. I mean, all that blood sucking and all.
So here's just Sam's moving some thralls into position on a guy that obviously we need to kind of get out of the way. He's kind of in between us and the ball at the moment, so Sam's just blitzing him down.
You can only blitz once per turn, which allows you to just charge at someone, basically, and block them, it's called, which is kind of like just trying to take them down, really.
His nose got in the way.
So
Most
here,
of the time,
so here is the first example of Bloodlust on our very first vampire. It means that every time you try and do anything with a vampire, you have to roll, well, the game automatically rolls a dice, like a 1d6, so a 6-sided standard dice, and on the roll of a 1, you suffer Bloodlust, which means that at the end of that vampire's movement, they have to bite one of your thralls and deal damage to them. You can re-roll it. We used one of our re-rolls, as you probably saw there. So we're now at 4 or 5 in the left-hand side. So we succeeded the second one and managed to run under where the ball's going to land. Because of that, you typically want to always have a thrall where you're going to move the vampire to, so that if they do have to bite someone, someone's there ready to be bitten. But we didn't have the luxury this time, so we kind of had to just risk it and do a re-roll.
The thralls are kind of definitely the weaker side of the vampire teams, but vampires can only hire, well, vampires and thralls to feed off, pretty much. It kind of balances out, really, because, you know, vampires are pretty strong, thralls are pretty weak, but the vampires need the tools to get around.
Yeah, that's the annoying thing, really, is that the vampires are clearly the powerhouse of the team, but because of Bloodthirst and having to feed off the thralls, you can't really afford to have, like, 6 vampires on the field at once and 5 thralls. Even though you can do it. And there's there's the first death. That was pretty ideal. They attacked us because we had high strength than them. We got to choose what happened, and we chose that they fell over, and they died from it, which is pretty ideal.
Yeah, that's pretty good for us, because that means they've got 1 man less on the field, and well, they'll have 1 man less forever, really. I suppose I can hire another one, but
it also gives us some star player points, basically for doing certain things like killing people or scoring touchdowns or doing some passing and stuff like that. You get star player points, which is basically like experience for your player. Obviously, we're kind of never going to play this team again after this match, so it doesn't really matter too much, but nice to know.
If I may say so, it was pretty stupid of the AI to blitz a random thrall and not our ball carrier who caught the ball in their half. I think
yeah, definitely.
It's not a good representation of the AI, because it can be very fun to play against, but that was a very, very dodgy decision. I can't help but think it was some kind of bug or something along those lines.
Yeah, the AI probably didn't quite realise that they were supposed to blitz us because of our opening blitz, like the random result we got. It probably messed it up slightly. They probably expected that they had the ball or something. But yep, nice early touchdown.
So we've got our first touchdown.
Yeah, very nice.
We didn't actually go for the touchdown straight away there, because you kind of want to delay it a little bit and try and do as much damage to their team as possible, because of course it's going to be much easier later on if we, well, get a few more kills in than if we just scored on turn 1 and then they got the ball straight away and steamrolled it.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously the other advantage there being that even if we had suffered a turnover or whatever, they still got to not try and knock down one of our thralls or whatever, which isn't too easy. And even still, they then won't really be able to move the ball either, so we'd be able to just hit them down and pick it back up and not be in too bad a shape. So it wasn't really a risky play at all.
Yeah, indeed. They didn't have anybody standing next to our ball carrier, so the only way they could possibly have taken him down was by using their 1 blitz. They can only do once per turn. Here
we've got another random event where Enraged fans have hurled a rock at one of their people, which is obviously handy for us. And this uses just a standard D6 roll with your fame added. Fame is something I'm sure we'll cover at some later point, but it's basically, as you can probably guess, how successful and more importantly, how famous your team is. But yeah, so one of their guys, as you can probably see on the right-hand side, on the very edge of the screen, is actually on the floor because the fans didn't like him so much.
What we'd like to see more often.
The problem with Thralls is they don't really have any skills whatsoever, whereas a lot of their team, like that guy there, you can see has block, which basically means when you roll the well, D6, it doesn't have the same kind of numbers as your standard dice. It has Blood Bowl specific things. One of them is both down. If both people go down, well, if somebody on your side, sorry, goes down during your turn, it's an instant turnover, so you can't do anything else. But with a block, both down, you can't be brought down with it. So, you know, it's a very powerful skill for sure, and we'll definitely be picking it up at some point.
It's one of the best skills in the game, really. Its main advantage as well is that it's good both on the defense and the offense. If you hit someone and you get both down, then you don't fall over and don't suffer a turnover, as Sam said. But obviously, if they're hitting you and they get both down, and you've got block, then you don't go down on their turn either. So it's both an offensive and a defensive skill.
Yeah, it's a very powerful one.
I see you're setting up some 2 dice blocks with this vampire here.
Yeah, indeed. Knocking them towards the edge of the pitch as well. If you knock somebody off the edge of the pitch, they get instant, at least KO'd, but they can also suffer injuries as well.
The only disadvantage there is because the fans are dealing the damage, you don't ever get any star player points no matter what happens. Even if the fans kill them for you knocking them off, you don't get any star player points at all.
Yeah, that's very true. Of course, them having one less person on the pitch is always nice, but in the long run, it's not going to do a lot for your team.
Yeah, definitely.
You probably already guessed, but the whole green square thing, this game, despite the look of the pitch, is basically done by squares of movement, which is represented by the MA stat if you look in the little stat window in the bottom right.
Yeah, it's... I'd say the slight problem with vampires really is that they're actually surprisingly slow, really. I mean, vampires only have a movement of 6. That's actually kind of bad compared to a lot of the other teams. Which is surprising. Most people would assume that vampires would be quite fast, like they are in the actual fantasy board game. But sadly not to be. And that's the problem with thralls as well. They're basically like basic humans, but slower and with less armor, so they're more likely to actually die. And with no skills, as Sam mentioned earlier.
Most teams do have more types of players than vampires do, because we only have vampires and thralls, but that's mainly because the vampires are so good. They have an ability called Hypnotic Gaze, which hopefully we'll be able to show soon. But most other teams, to make up for that fact, have a bit more of a versatile setup they can choose.
Yep, there they just suffered a turnover. They tried to move one of their players away from one of our guys, which makes them have to dodge out, and they failed and landed flat on their arse, so that makes it a turnover, and it's our turn. So
I think that was the guy sitting at the edge of... Yeah, it was the guy sitting at the edge, though, so he had to do that, otherwise we just knock him out, and he would get instantly KO'd. So, you know, it's kind of a bit of a risk you have to take, and Blood Bowl is all about risks you have to take, really, let's face it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as far as they're concerned, it's better to try and dodge and fail and land up away from the edge, rather than standing on the edge and going to be knocked out next turn for sure, so...
Yeah, because importantly, if you fail your dodge roll, you will fall over, but you fall into the square you were going towards, so he still managed to move out of the edge of the pitch.
Here you are using another reroll because our vampires haven't yet got block or anything, but a nice KO off of it, so they're well worth the reroll, I guess.
Definitely worth it, yeah. Probably going to start moving people up towards their ball carrier now, who's moving down a bit.
Yep. That's the one thing about Blood Bowl, like you were saying earlier, there's a lot of teams that don't really even care about the ball. They happily just beat you up, and vampires are quite I think it's one of the strengths of vampires. They're such a versatile team that they can bash when the other team is about movement, and when the other team is about bashing, you can become movement based yourself. So quite a versatile team, and obviously here we're beating up the all the elves because they're actually so weak compared to us.
Yeah, indeed. The vampires have both very high, well, not very high, they have pretty high strength and agility as well. So you can kind of try and play against whatever opponent you're facing. But that does mean you have to adapt to it. You can't just pick one strategy and, you know, stick with it forever.
No, definitely not. That is important to note. That's only the actual vampires. Like the thralls themselves are just generally quite bad.
Yeah, the thralls themselves are so generic, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, they're worse than generic, to be honest.
Yeah, they're worse than the basic human, so that's kind of bad. But they're cheap. So when they die in droves, which they do, it doesn't matter too much.
Count Manfred Frost doing a bit of a push there. It's not particularly useful. And there's another push, not particularly useful.
Yeah, just pushing all over the place. And
And
finally,
he
yeah,
thank
finally
God.
goes down. Used our blitz on it, but I think it was worthwhile. I mean, there wasn't really any other better blitzes anyway, and that was our last
Yeah.
die, so you basically...
You may as well use your blitz every turn if you have somebody free anywhere, to be honest. I mean, there's very little reason to not to.
yeah, exactly what I was about to say.
Wow, they moved about 2 squares there. That seems a bit strange. I assume they're going to attempt to cage up a bit more.
Yeah, definitely trying to do some kind of cage. That's why they're dodging everyone out. This is maybe one of my complaints about the AI. As you mentioned earlier, it's a bit buggy in cases, but the AI basically has one strategy for every team. So they kind of always just cage.
Which is cage. Which is a bit strange when they end up caging with like an extremely weak team. Or with just weak units like Snotlings.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're really not going to accomplish very much doing that.
No, definitely not. So that is maybe one of the failures of the AI. As you were saying earlier, it's incredibly fun single player. I mean, I've played more single player than anything else by far, and yeah, it's actually incredibly fun. You do have to kind of play on the higher difficulties though. If you play it on like easy, it's just trivial.
Have a nice sleep.
Yeah, one thing that I have to say though is that if you start to lose games, it's really not worth just loading and restarting. I kind of was doing that myself, but John Zars ODH did mention to me. Sorry, you don't mind that I mentioned your name, do you?
It's fine.
No, good. Yeah, he did basically tell me that, you know, part of Blood Bowl is you're going to have people who get their spines broken and end up dying and whatever. So you just got to roll with it, really. Anybody can play the game and just keep on loading until eventually they brute force and win, but that's not the way it's meant to be played.
We just used Hypnotic Gaze there actually for the first time, and as you can see, it's kind of got that kind of pinky purple swirl over the guy. That basically means that as far as the game's concerned, he's no longer there. He does stand there, so you can't like walk through that square or anything, but he doesn't, as I mentioned earlier, you have to dodge to move away from people. Well, we don't if they're hypnotic gazed. He also doesn't help in any kind of like fights or anything. He's just basically not there really. But as soon as they move him or do anything with that guy, it then goes. So it's not obviously, you know, foolproof.
It's good for moving people in to tackle people, though, because he has no tackle zones around him, so anybody can walk right past him and he can't do a damn thing. Like, I think we're about to do that now with Count Manfred Frost. Just blitz him in to try and take out that ball carrier. Oh, if we've moved this way, this guy away, sorry.
Yeah, that way we don't have to dodge themselves. Yeah, no dodging there required.
We know the opponent will be out for
Oh, you just set up some more 2 dice blocks here.
By moving other people into tackle zones, by the way, like there, we had 2 people next to him. You get an additional strength versus him.
Yeah.
But they have to be in nobody else's tackle zone themselves as well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so if someone touching your guy cancels them out. Another injury, which is lovely.
Yeah, that's very good, especially on a Witch Elf, who is one of the Dark Elves' stronger kind of, you know, people they can recruit.
Yeah, definitely. It's their more offensive thing. It's, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Dark Elves are kind of like the bashy elves. That's definitely one of their main reasons for it.
Oh, that's a pain.
Yeah, definitely.
The problem with that's the problem with Bloodthirst is when you do it, you do have to roll on the injury table for your thrall. And while it can never be something as bad as dead, I believe the worst you can get is badly hurt, which just means they can no longer play in the game you're currently in.
Yeah, that's right.
It can be a bit of a pain, especially if you start failing bloodlusts on like turn 1 or whatever, and end up wounding somebody so they can't play again.
Yeah, it's kind of the it's the thing that balances vampires really though. So
yeah, that's true. It does mean that well, this is our first game, so we couldn't really afford it. You're going to want some backup thralls who are ready to take the place of those who you end up KOing yourself, even if nobody else does.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to go through a lot of thralls, which is what I mentioned earlier slightly in that they were kind of throwaway. They were really cheap, so you can afford for them to die because they're going to anyway. Sadly for a thrall, it's more about when they're going to die rather than if.
They don't even look particularly armoured, let's face it. I mean, just look at them.
Yeah. It looks Like schoolboys. We're doing some kind of complex maneuver here. I'm not quite sure what.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing either, if I'm going to be brutally honest with you. At the time of playing here, it was me playing, by the way.
Oh, you're going for some kind of hypnotic gaze.
Yeah,
which
not
failed.
worth re-rolling that, yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of, if I blitz there, they're going to have people assisting them, that's the problem. So I don't really want to do that, because vampires have 1 additional strength compared to elves anyway, which means they get 2 dice to roll to try and block them. So I want to get the most possible. Because, obvious reasons, I'll have more chances of bringing them down and getting the ball back then. But, yeah.
Well, you managed to get a 2
You can
dice
see,
off.
the thrall moved in there to block both of their tackle zones, the 2 people above and below that guy, because he's right there next to the kind of square around them.
Wow, that was unlucky. They caught the ball.
Yeah,
we
that
knocked
was
it out of one guy's
pretty
hands and it
unfortunate.
went straight into another's.
It wasn't too bad though, because he did become stunned, so he won't be doing anything next turn. The amount of stars above his head means he's stunned, so next turn he can't stand up, he can only stand up the turn after that. You can see there, Endland, the person next to our thrall called Mandek Gorsk, I think.
Yeah.
He only has 4 stars above his head, which means next turn he can stand up if he wants to.
It's an important point you make, actually. You don't ever have to stand up. So those 2 guys on the sidelines that we've got our 3 thralls next to, kind of like off the edge of the screen on the left there, they're actually better off not standing those guys up, because then we can't push them off. But obviously it does mean that those guys are then standing there laying there doing nothing.
Yeah, true enough, though at the same time we have to tie up our thralls to stand there and keep them intimidated enough to stay down. So, I suppose it's certainly not a bad idea. Ooh,
Here's-
nice dodging there.
But say here's elves doing what elves do best, which is dodging and running away like cowards.
Yeah, elves are pretty good at dodging because they have naturally very high agility. They're definitely not a bashy team, though dark elves, okay, maybe they are a bit.
Well, there's a guy trying to do what you mentioned earlier, trying to dodge out of the edge of the pitch, and I guess it worked somewhat.
Well, I believe they moved all the rest of the people they intended to, so, well, you don't want to do it straight away in case you get a turnover like they did. If it's the only person left, you may as well do it just to try and get your person out there so he can start being useful in the game again.
Yeah, definitely. You want to take your most risky actions at the end of your turn. That way, obviously, you're not going to, lose out on any good, more safe options that are available to you.
Well, a bit of a problem now, though, of course, because elves also, in addition to their high agility, have high movement speed, so the ball carrier has moved kind of halfway down the pitch there. Oh, that's not a good roll. I'll re-roll that.
Especially not after failing a bloodlust, and only a push.
Yeah, indeed.
Less than ideal.
Can't follow. No, that was one of the big mistakes I made in this game, and John will certainly complain about it.
Well, what happened there is that he failed bloodlust, so he had to bite a thrall at the end of that vampire itself, like that vampire's action, which he could do because he was stood next to a thrall. But when you push someone back, you can choose to follow them into the square they were occupying, which Sam did, and then was out of range of any thrall, which instantly sends the vampire off the pitch until the next drive. So, not ideal.
Fortunately, we did get a turnover there by sending one of their people down. He must have rolled skulls when he fought our guy, which means that his person goes down instead of ours, and their turn ends. So now we have a couple of people here, you can see, who can actually move down and try and intercept that ball carrier. Though he does have to make 2 go for it rolls, which means he moves further than he normally can. Oh yeah, re-roll. That was... Go for it's mean you can move further than you normally can, but you have to roll the dice. If you roll a 1, you fall down.
Which you did. You failed the first time, re-rolled, succeeded, went for the second go for it, and failed. Which means in 3 dice you rolled 2 ones.
Yeah, that's quite depressing. And so now they've scored and they have equalised. I guess that makes up for the poor AI giving me a free go right at the start. Now that they've scored, of course, we receive the kick-off. It kind of goes like that. Whoever scores, the opposing team receives the next ball.
Just like in, say, rugby, or as you mentioned earlier, American football, the same deal.
Yeah, indeed. Unfortunately, this is turn 8. You can see in the top right there, and of course that means that half time, is coming up after we end our turn. So we cannot possibly score in one turn, which is quite annoying. Which is why we just moved everyone right to the front lines.
Yeah, more rocks being thrown by the fans. A different guy this time. Didn't quite see what happened to him. Oh yeah, he's stunned there. You can see him on the line of scrimmage in the middle there with lots of stars because, as Sam mentioned, he's now out for 2 turns, which is helpful for us. Although I guess it doesn't really matter.
It's a bit of a pain though because half time is about to come up, so it doesn't really make a big difference. And the enraged fans can actually kill people. I would much have preferred it if they killed somebody, but
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this formation that we've done here is actually kind of bad, really, because obviously, you know, it puts so many of your people kind of in runnable positions. But as you say, it's the last turn of the half, so why not get some patching in?
that does not look good.
No, that's definitely the end of our go this half.
That is one thing you will learn to loathe if you play this game. Double skulls followed by a reroll with another double skulls.
Yeah, indeed.
We actually did have a both down there as well, but his guy had block and we didn't, so we still went down and his guy didn't, and we got a turnover. Still, now it's the second half, and time to reposition our players. In the online games, we are going to separate the videos into 2 halves. So we have a video for the first half and the second half, because you can probably tell already these are going to be fairly long.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, this video's going to be like, what, like 45 minutes or something, so obviously 2 20-minute videos is obviously a lot more preferable.
Yeah, indeed.
The only problem with obviously setting up your guys like you did last time is that then it makes it take a while to reposition them. The only thing is quite nice they added you can actually save preset formations and choose them from a list, as well as a few that are
I was about to say that. I think we should probably do that when we play online. You know, I'm sure we can save this setup we have here because it seems quite strong. So we'll probably nice catch there by the vampire anyway.
Yeah.
But that is true though. We'll actually have more vampires. We only have 3 at the moment because of the couldn't really afford more. If we wanted a strong, you know, viable team anyway. But we will hire more vampires and probably field another one on the pitch. So well, we'll see when it goes then.
Yeah, definitely. Vampires are probably one of the worst, if not the worst, starting teams in the game. As Sam mentioned before, all of the thralls have no skills. The vampires have like no real skills that are helpful. Hypnotic gaze obviously is somewhat helpful, but bloodlust certainly isn't. And regenerate,
That's true.
Yeah, and regenerate doesn't really do much as far as it's not really a skill in the sense that it actually like contributes to the game really too much. So they're
actually explain what regenerate does.
Yeah, it basically means if you suffer an injury, you can roll a d6, and if you get a 4 or more, you basically negate that injury, and you just go to being like, you know, knocked off the pitch or whatever, which is obviously quite nice. It gives your vampires some longevity so that they don't just, you know, die all the time. But obviously it doesn't really affect the battle in that, you know, it doesn't make you stronger or deal more damage or more likely to knock them over or less likely to be knocked over yourself. So it doesn't really do much for the first couple of games. Also because of the fact that if you do lose vampires in your first couple of games, like if you had 2 vampires die in your first 2 games, most people will just restart the team and make a new one. So, ooh, nice double skulls there. We actually got like defender stumbles, I think that's called, which is where you push them over, but if they've got dodge, then they only get pushed back as if you got a push result. So not too great.
A lot of elves have dodge by default.
Yeah, indeed.
I think that guy we just tackled there didn't have it by default, and he got it through leveling up instead, because leveling up lets you pick another skill. But you can't just pick any skill in the game. We will explain more about that later, but yeah, that guy had dodge, you can see there. So we picked defender stumbles, but he's still just fine, and we only push him back slightly, which is a bit of a pain. And now we have to bite a thrall. Oh wait, no, we didn't. We had to do it with the last vampire.
Yeah,
sorry, my bad. Yeah, Lurch von Carstein.
The lesser known von Carstein.
I like that they actually included the referee here. You can see the goblin there, kind of in the bottom of the screen with the red card in his hand.
Yeah, pretty amusing.
Because you can actually you can be sent off in this game, because you can foul people when they're down, which is against the rules. However, you don't always get sent off.
No, you have to. Everyone has armor, which if someone falls over for whatever reason, they have to roll an armor roll, which basically is the opponent. So if it's your guy, the other the other player rolls, and obviously if you're knocking one of theirs over, then you roll, and you have to roll 2 dice, and if your roll exceeds their armor value, which for our rules is like 7, if it exceeds that, then you have to then roll on the injury table. And when failing, if you roll a double, even if you don't break their armor, so if you just roll double 1, for example, you then get sent off. It's only on doubles that you actually get sent off.
You can probably tell by the amount of dice that, yeah, this is based on a, well, I hesitate to say board game.
Well, it's more of a board game than than like.
Yeah, I guess.
Because it genuinely has its own board.
Yeah, okay, I guess it's a kind of a board game. So there is a lot of dice involved, which is why we keep talking about, doubles and stuff, because if you want 2 dice, then, you have to have 1 more strength or whatever. And if you're actually playing this, because this is kind of a, I believe, an almost direct rip of the board game, just made into a computer game. Yeah,
it's very similar. There's a few things that are slightly changed, either because they couldn't put them in or because they just haven't for whatever reason. And a few things are a bit buggy and aren't quite how they should be. But generally speaking, it's pretty truthful to the game. And I imagine most people wouldn't really be able to tell too many differences.
Yeah, no, I will just have to say this now. I would also say that it's not particularly balanced, but that's on purpose.
Indeed.
And so again, as I believe John said earlier, the vampire team is a bit underpowered. However, it's not underpowered forever. It starts off pretty weak, but if you level up your vampires, you get star player points by not only injuring, but also by scoring touchdowns. Once you level up your vampires, you can get some pretty strong players out there.
Definitely. They're one of the. They're probably actually one of the best characters in the game as far as leveling up is concerned, simply because they have so many different choices available to them, which kind of helps as well with their versatility. They're naturally good with 1 more strength than a normal human, and they're naturally good because they have an additional agility compared to a normal human. But they also have the ability to choose from almost all of the skills whilst leveling up, so can become very, very strong.
I think they can only not choose from passing by default anyway, but they can if they, I don't know, is it rolled a 10 plus or is it rolled a double?
It's a double, yeah.
We'll talk about the leveling system later on.
Yeah, all the leveling is done in between games, so even if you was to level up like during a game, because you just get enough touchdowns or kills or whatever, it's not until the end of the game that the character levels up.
Yeah, indeed. So if you have a character level up and... yeah, you might want to be careful, because if he then dies, that's going to be pretty unfortunate.
That's going to be very unfortunate. We're in a pretty good position, actually. I mean, we've got the ball. We're surrounded by players, but that's not so much of a problem. I mean, our vampires are agile enough to just run away from that, I think. And
yeah, only 2 of them are actually in a tackle zone for the vampire as well. So Kilieth and whatever the hell that other guy's called really can't do a thing to a good old Count Rex there.
No, so we're going to blitz a vampire up just to try and push one of them away at least.
Yes, there we go. He'll go down from this.
He will, because he's only got block and not dodge, so he goes over. So that gets rid of one guy.
The other guy couldn't dodge that one.
So that's 1 less tackle zone to dodge out of, which that definitely improves our chances. That double skulls didn't, so I will change that.
But yeah, it looks like he was about to try and dodge all the way out. Yeah, that's probably the best play here. And we succeed, so touchdown.
You could, I don't know if you saw, but in the bottom corner it said we only needed a 3 to dodge out of that, so it's really not very high. It was definitely in our favour to score there, which puts us back in the lead again.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we was going into the second half, basically the strategy we're doing, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a future game or whatever, kind of wants us to go into the second half 1-1, so we're actually doing exactly what we want, really. This is where we hope to be, and then we just normally, if this was like quite a difficult game, you'd normally then just play defensively or offensively and try and secure the ball and then just hold the ball in place and not even worry about scoring.
Can't believe we just got blitz again.
Yeah, getting really lucky with these kickoffs. I mean, what have we had? We've had 2 blitzes and 2 of their guys had a rock thrown at them.
Yeah.
that's pretty much ideal. Unfortunately, the ball's been kicked back so far.
We can't run try and catch it this time. That's a pain.
No, so just a matter of putting our people down the field as far as they can go.
Still, just to go back to what you were saying just a minute ago, it's definitely, I would agree, it's definitely worth sometimes not scoring even though you have the ball, just trying to delay the game.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially if you have a lead, you just kind of want to sit in the corner and hide with the ball and then try and move up the field or get rid of it, like passing or whatever, when people move towards you, because you just want to drag the game out until you win, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you score, you're giving the ball to the opponent basically, because then you're kicking to them and they're receiving. Whereas obviously, if you don't score, like you say, it then gives you the opportunity to just never give them the ball back until the game ends. So there's definitely, I think it's one of those things that when you're a new player, you think I should always receive and I should always score because it gives me more, star player points and stuff. But I think as you get more experience, you start realizing the advantages of kicking instead of receiving, and the advantages of not scoring to scoring instantly when you can.
It is worth noting that when you have your free blitz turn, only people that are outside of tackle zones can actually move. But you can blitz. You probably noticed there that Duke Lurch again blitzed that guy, and well, he did kind of nothing. But yeah, you can blitz, so it's worth doing it. But you cannot move people on the line of scrimmage, which is the middle line in the middle of the pitch, because they have to be in people's tackle zones.
It's actually slightly worse than that. It's anyone on the line of scrimmage, even if they're in a tackle zone or not. So it kind of punishes you for putting too many people up there to kind of attack.
Oh really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's anyone on the line of scrimmage, no matter if they're in a tackle zone or not, which obviously, as I say, kind of forces you to not just throw everyone on the line or whatever.
Cool. He failed a go for it there.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why you'd bother making a go for it in that situation, but again, AI.
But it was his last guy to move, I think, so I suppose it not that bad a move.
I guess not.
Considering he had to roll 2 or more.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
We did with that blitz at least, even though we didn't knock anyone down, move half our team right into their square straight away. So we're going to have quite a good chance to get the ball again here.
Yeah, definitely. Or just delay them. I mean, we've got a 2-1 lead. We can hold out for another 4-5 turns easily. Nice KO there as well. And I think it's just a normal lineman, but always good to get their people off the pitch.
People do tend to field their flimsiest players on the line of scrimmage, though, or oddly, sometimes they field their strongest.
Yeah, it's more a matter of, am I stronger than the opponent's line of scrimmage people? If you've got a drastic advantage because you've got a Minotaur or something, then sometimes you're better off putting it on the line of scrimmage just so that it can guarantee to get some beats in there. Whereas obviously if you're going to lose on the line of scrimmage and have your players beaten up, you might as well put, as you say, the worst people there so that you're getting your worst people killed, really.
Which is kind of what we're doing, considering we have only 3 thralls, and I believe you have to have 3 people on the line of scrimmage, no matter what.
Yeah, that's the minimum. You can have as many as you like, but that 3 is the absolute minimum.
Yeah, so we're kind of putting our sacrificial thralls, literally our sacrificial thralls,
yeah.
on the line of scrimmage, and wow, that was a really bad auto choice to blitz there. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, the AI tried to send you through a tackle zone and to get an assist for the enemy. That was kind of bad.
That's enough waste of a blitz, but whatever.
Yeah, indeed, that was a
bit of a push. So we can move a lot of people into his tackle zone now, which will make it much harder for him to dodge out.
Yeah, it also just means that it's harder for them to try and beat their way out either, because we've got so many assists or cancelling of their assists. So
yeah, indeed. Nice. You can get a skill though called guard, which means that even if you have somebody standing next to you, you can still assist like that there. You see that guard come up there? The guy with the ball, he has guard, so he can assist anyone in that square as long as he's also in the tackle zone of whoever they're attacking, which is a very strong skill. Oh, look at that dodge.
More elves doing what elves do best.
Harsh. Still, again, we have a couple of people down south who are quite prepared to go and KO.
That was a very bad go for it. We're very lucky that they didn't already have someone further down the pitch, otherwise they could have thrown the ball with their ball carrier to that guy and then just run and scored in one turn. That's kind of the strength of elves, is they can just, turn, you beating them up right at the back of their side of the pitch into a touchdown in one turn. They're so annoying like that.
Did you know the first Dark Elf team featuring only Witch Elves was the Deadly Nightshades?
If you're down, by the way, when you stand up, you do lose some movement, so people who have been knocked down can't move as far as they normally could in the next turn. So it's not quite as pointless as you might think to just knock somebody down normally. I mean, it's quite easy to think that, oh, you know, if they knock down, they can just stand up straight away again next turn. What's the point? But they do get suffer from some disadvantages next turn, as well as, of course, their tackle zone is completely negated during your turn.
Yeah, and obviously not only that, but standing up and hitting someone is a blitz, even if they're already standing next to you. You have to be standing and next to someone to block them, whereas if you're on the floor standing next to them, it's a blitz.
Yeah, indeed. Though people who stand up can also assist or have a tackle zone around them in the turn they stand up. So at the same time, you know, if you're standing next to somebody, stand up and just block them from moving.
More failures of bloodlust, which is a pain.
Yeah.
Luckily
Well,
here
that's
you can...
vampires.
Yeah, true. Here, luckily, you can push him back and then bite the thrall that you was out of range of, so it's not too terrible.
Yeah, that's quite well positioned, if I dare say so.
Here you're doing a very nice thing, which you see all the time, where you'll basically push people in a chain, so even if you can't knock someone over, you can push them so that then someone else can attack them, hopefully knocking them over, and so on and so on. Unfortunately here we actually run out of people to do that, and he stays up.
Yeah, indeed. Bit of a pain, but, you know, whatever. Can't win them all.
Or... There's a lot of bad go-for-its in this game.
There has been quite a lot, but because it's one of our last people, we won't bother using a reroll because, you know, nobody else was really left to move that turn, so it kind of wasn't worth it.
Also, we've only got one left. As you can see, kind of under our flag, with a red flag in the top, we've got 1 out of 5 left. And you kind of need to be a bit economical with your rerolls and not just blow them on everything, which can be tempting sometimes.
Cool, that was good.
Yep, he dodged, failed, and then got a reroll and failed that as well. So, pretty good for us.
That end of match imminent means it's only 2 turns. Actually, it's 3, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 2 turns
Sorry.
for us, 3 for them.
Yeah, sorry, there's 3 turns left until the game ends. So we still have our wizard to use, so I'm not too worried, really.
Yeah, exactly. If they pick up the ball, we can just use the wizard to zap someone, so it's not too problematic, really. And we've got vampires nearby and thralls and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident.
Vampires, of course, being much more effective at handling the ball than the thralls, at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Because a lot of stuff, agility, passing, picking up the ball, etc., catching the ball, is based on agility. And vampires, you know, they're pretty solid with their agility.
Yeah, dodging as well, which obviously is one of the strengths of elves. You know, the higher agility there helps them to dodge a lot more, as well as you say, pass and catch. That guy finally goes down. Took us 2 turns, but
Took long enough.
he finally ended up eating some dirt.
So if you stand next to someone, so they're in your tackle zone, it has quite a big disadvantage for them in lots of ways. Like, they also have a disadvantage in catching as well, and picking up the ball, etc. If you have somebody marked, they have lots of minuses to doing pretty much anything with the ball, and it's kind of made so that you're going to need some luck if anybody is standing next to the ball and you just try and pick it up.
Yeah,
But at
definitely.
the same time, oh, I didn't even see what happened there.
It was a guy at the top trying to dodge out.
Oh, right. Yeah, at the same time, it's impossible. Well, it's impossible to have a 100% chance of succeeding because you will always fail any action on a 1, but you'll always succeed any action on a 6.
Here you are looking to do some kind of insane pass.
Yeah, that was... You can't pass very far, just so you know. I don't know if you saw that pass I was thinking of doing there, but it was going to be kind of the stuff of madness.
Also, they had 2 people that could possibly intercept, which basically means that they get to try and catch it whilst it's in midair. You can only choose 1 person to intercept, even if you've got, like, say, you know, all of your team in between. They're the people that get kind of like the blue circle underneath them. But you can only choose your best guy, basically. You can't, you know, try and catch with everyone.
Yeah, you can see my guy moving down there to get ready for bloodlust if I fail it, which I didn't. But, you know, you always want to move the thralls before the vampires. Prepare for the worst. Ooh.
Yeah, so...
And there's a very nice pass there. Did take a reroll, though.
Yeah, but perfect launch. As you mentioned earlier, you always succeed any action on a 6. With passing, if you roll a 6 to pass, you get a perfect launch, which means the person that's catching then gets +1 to their catch chance. So they were obviously previously catching on a 3, that would then be a 2, and you know, so on. Wow, that's double spells.
Can't reroll this time, so all KOs goes my vampire.
Yeah.
And the Chaos All-Stars, Bob.
doesn't, Jim.
Maybe the Chaos players that got turned into slugs by illegal magic.
Oh, yeah.
I kind of hear the commentators in the background. As you were saying earlier, the problem with them is that a lot of the stuff they say is actually pretty funny and amusing the first time you hear it, and maybe the second.
Yeah.
But seriously, as you were saying, literally, it's only 2 or 3 games, and you will have heard everything they're ever going to say for that matchup. They do have unique dialogue for each race, which is kind of interesting, the first time you see those races and stuff. But again, they'll say, in fact, I have had it before where I played against Wood Elves recently, and they said the same piece of dialogue about Wood Elves 3 times in the same half, which was somewhat tedious, and it was the final straw, and I turned off their commentary.
So this is our last turn, so we may as well use our Scroll of our wizard. So we'll lightning bolt that guy next to Count Rex to get him out of our tackle zone and give him a free run to the touchdown line. Sorry, murderous something. Yeah, death.
Murderous Maladeth, I think his name was.
Oh, and it wounded him as well. Ouch.
No long-term effects. So he just means he can't come back on this game.
Oh, this is... I'm going to have to comment on this if I'm not going to be mistaken. See, this is where John told me that if you fail Bloodlust and you score, it doesn't matter. The thing is, it does.
I'm sure it didn't. I'm sure that if you scored a touchdown, your vampire got sent off, but the touchdown happened first, so it didn't matter. But no, apparently not. So there we just missed out on a touchdown potential. Although saying that, I'm not sure if we could have got one. We couldn't have moved any tool in to kind of be there to be bitten, and it is our last turn. But even still, yeah, that was a bit of a fail on my part. But at least we figured that out in a game that didn't matter.
Yeah, well, that's the end of the game, which we won. And I hope you have enjoyed this introduction to Blood Bowl. It's not quite over yet, of course, because we have the winning screen left to go, which is slightly more complicated than you might think.
Yeah, post-game is actually a very important part of Blood Bowl, really. In fact, if you include kind of like leveling up and stuff in that as well, it's actually probably just as difficult or just as complex as the actual game itself. Here we've you get winnings, which is basically 1d6, so anything between 1 and 6, obviously. And if you win, you can re-roll the result if you don't like. So we got a 3, I think, and we chose to re-roll it because we didn't like that 3. So we re-rolled and got a 6, and then you get 10,000 on top of that. The losing team doesn't get to re-roll. They do get the additional 10,000.
Yeah, so now we're on our final screen. Of course, as John was just saying, we actually rolled quite high on our second roll for the winnings, but we also have MVPs. MVPs, it happens for both teams. They have an MVP, and whoever gets it is completely random, despite what you might think. They get 5-star player points. Like we have Count Rex of Sylvania there was our most valued player.
Yeah, he gets the 5-star player points there, which is kind of nice. You always want it on basically on your vampires for a vampire team, because the thralls are kind of, as I say, die lots, and they're not too great. It's your vampires that are the key to the team. So we've got some players that actually earned enough star player points to level up, which is perfect because it allows us to show that off. So yeah, we got 2 of our 3 vampires leveled up.
Including Count Rex. It may well have been because of his MVP status that he got there, which is really useful. Though, of course, you have more thralls and vampires, so don't get used to your vampires getting it. Of course, you want them to, but wanting and getting it aren't really the same.
Yep. We didn't roll a double, we rolled a 5, I think, which means we get to pick basically any skill that we could normally get. Here we're choosing block. Generally, you choose dodge first on vampires, but your first vampire, you want to get block because it's more of an offensive skill, and it's good to have someone with it straight off.
And dodge will be the other one, of course. Dodge being that, they both affect your dice rolls, really, both in blocks, and dodge in carrying the ball, because you want them to dodge out of people's tackle zones, and it gives them a free re-roll, which is pretty good.
Yep, I think that's about it for this video, though. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for watching, and next time we'll be starting our team online, and yeah, hopefully you'll be able to see our team progress and level up and possibly lose a few players, but what the hell.
Yep, okay, so have fun and see you next time.
Bye.